Okay. So female reproductive system consists of reproductive glands and consists of also what it consists of. What have you heard? Uterus. So first of all, what are reproductive glands? Ovaries, right?
Yes.
Then what we have? Uterus.
Vagina and
Vagina here. Uterus and ovarian tubes also, right? And here we have ovaries. So female reproductive glands are ovaries. What are producing ovaries? Ovocytes, right? Or the egg cells. And also they are producing progesterone and estrogen, the female hormones, as we had in the case of the male. What we had for the case of the male?
androgen
and testosterone. So what we have for the female? Progesterone and estrogen. So these are ovaries. Then we have here ovarian tubes. As you see, here we have uterus, here we have vagina. First of all, we are going to talk about ovaries, of course. Ovaries are located laterally from the uterus, as you see in the pelvic cavity, and they have, in the case of the testes, they have anterior and posterior margins, medial and lateral surfaces, and then they have also superior and inferior ends, right, as we had in the case of the testes. So they have anterior and posterior margins, they have medial and lateral surfaces, and they have inferior and superior ends. Now, about ovaries, we have to know that they are covered with the germinal epithelium, okay? They are covered with the germinal epithelium, and under the germinal epithelium, unfortunately I can't show you because we don't have that detailed picture, but under the germinal epithelium, there is located tunica albuginea, this stroma, the soft skeleton, just like it was in the case of the testes. I mean, we had there also tunica albuginea, right? Okay. Now, what is happening inside these ovaries? First of all, before we talk about this process, how this egg cell production occurs, we have to know that ovaries have its fixation apparatus. Okay, however it's called. Proper ligament, which is also called ovarian ligament, and also it has suspensory ligament. This is suspensory ligament right here. This is proper ligament. As you see, proper ligament is also called ovarian ligament. This proper ligament, as you see, attaches to what's that? Uterus. And the suspensory ligament attaches to the pelvic wall. Okay. And also it's to the fixation apparatus of the ovaries. Itself does not belong, but still we have to mention here broad ligament, which is covering, in this picture it's not shown that, but it's actually covering ovaries also. So this broad ligament belongs to the fixation apparatus of the uterus, but still we have to mention here because it's covering ovaries also. Okay. Now about the process, whatever happens inside the ovaries. Ovaries consist of medulla, and it consists of cortex. Medulla, and on the epiphyseally we have cortex. Okay, this is cortex. Now in medulla there are located lymphatic vessels, blood vessels, nerves, veins, and so on. Everything is located here in this region, in the medulla. But in the region of cortex, as you see, can you see? There is a huge bag there. Can you take it away? So in the cortex, as you see, here happens the whole process of this egg cell reproduction. When the baby is born, babies have approximately 1 million primordial follicles, okay? Approximately 1 million primordial follicles. But when the puberty starts, only after that, starts these primordial follicles to develop. First, as you see, we get here primary follicles, okay? These are primary follicles. Then we get secondary follicles, and then we get Graafian follicles. Graafian follicles are totally, the process is down there. We have inside this ovocyte or the egg cell, okay? and after this it's filled with the liquid, this Graafian follicle, and after this Graafian follicle ruptures, this egg cell goes out from the ovary itself, okay? So it comes out and it goes to ovarian tubules. We will talk about that. But what happens with that? The thing is that when this egg cell comes out, this egg cell becomes the fetus, or it's not becoming the fetus. We know that, right? So in the case, then we get in the case. Hold on. If we don't get this, if we get the, if there are spermatozoa and if we get egg cell fertilized, then in any case we get this yellow tissue, okay? But the thing is that if we have this fertilized, then this yellow tissue continues to function during the whole pregnancy, and it governs the pregnancy, okay? It becomes some kind of a endocrinal gland. But in the case if this doesn't occur and the egg cell just is not developed and goes away, in that case we get this white tissue and it then goes away, okay? So this white tissue is called corpus albicans and it's called corpus luteum. You have to remember that. Yellow tissue is called corpus luteum. Now, this was about the whole process of this development of the egg cell. We also have to know, of course, what happens with the egg cells when they come out and when this ovocyte comes out and this Graafian follicle is ruptured. As you see here, we have ovarian tubules, right? So, this in one hand connects to uterus, as you see, and in the other hand it's opening and it's as you see it's connecting to the ovaries. Well, here it's not shown. Okay. Well, these things here are all these, whatever you see, are called fimbriae. But the thing is that out of this fimbriae, one of the fimbriae, which is not shown here, is called ovarian fimbriae. What's the function of this ovarian fimbriae? When this egg cell comes out of the ovary, then this ovarian fimbriae, this is the kind of the longest one, catches this ovocyte and takes it into the tube. Now, after that, as you see here, this portion, this is the largest portion, and this is called ampulla, okay? It enters an ampulla, ovocyte or the egg cell, and in this place in the ampulla usually takes place this fertilization, okay? Here comes the spermatozoa, and this is the place where usually happens fertilization. After that, it descends and goes to the uterus, and it's fixed, as usually, if it's fertilized, of course. If it's not fertilized, then it goes away. Okay, now, about the uterus. Uterus consists of fundus, body, and neck, which is called also cervix, okay? Fundus, body, and neck, or also called cervix, cervical portion. Uterus has a very important function of what? What?
Storage the urine. No.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious.
Very good. So what's the function of the uterus?
Fixed, yeah.
Yes, so the development of the fetus occurs in the uterus. Right? You all know that probably, right? Okay, so when the babies are developing, they are developing in the uterus, and uterus grows with the baby, as you know probably, as you have heard. Uterus is very small in general, and it really takes a small place. But when the baby is born, then it's getting larger. So we have to know what consists of uterus itself. Uterus consists of, as usually we had in the, well, here I forgot to tell about the layers, but let's say the layers of the uterus first, and then I will tell you the layers of the tube. So what layers we have in general? Mucose, We have, I mean, in general, we have mucose, submucose, muscular, and serous or adventitia. In this case, we have mucose, okay? Then we have muscle, and finally, we have serous and adventitia. All of them have their names. But we have, before we talk about that, I forgot to tell about the uterine tubes. So the uterine tubes consist of 4 layers: mucose, submucose, muscular, and adventitia, as usually. But the important part is that the inner mucose layer consists of ciliated epithelium. Where we had ciliated epithelium?
Ciliated epithelium.
What was its characteristic for?
Respiratory system.
Yes, respiratory, not lungs.
No.
Respiratory system. So here we also have ciliated epithelium. The ciliated epithelium helps this axle to move, okay? Also, the muscular layer consists of outer and inner longitudinal and middle circular. And the circular layer, also the constrictions of the circular layer, helps this axle to move through the uterine tube, okay? So that's moving inside here. So that's important, we have to remember. And the outer layer is made of, as I told you, we have here a broad ligament, which is the ligament of the uterus, but it's covering uterine tubes and it's also covering ovaries. So the outer layer is made of this broad ligament, but also here inside we have serous portion, so we have to remember. Now, about these layers of the uterus. For the layers of the uterus, we have endometrium, myometrium, and perimetrium and parametrium. Endometrium is called the inner layer or the mucose layer. Myometrium is called the muscle, and parametrium and perimetrium are called the outer layers. Before we talk about the outer layer, we have to know that this mucose layer, we have basal and we have functional, okay? Functional mucose layer is the innermost layer, and you know that in the female it occurs a desquamation, or this is shedding this functional epithelium when this egg cell is not fertilized, and when it's fertilized then it's not shedding and it becomes bigger and so on. But the basal epithelium is giving us the functional epithelium. After it sheds, the female needs this new epithelium, right? Functional epithelium. So this basal portion of this epithelium gives us new functional epitheliums. After that, as we said, we have this, what we have? Myometrium. And after that, we have perimetrium and parametrium. Now, perimetrium is the portion of the, it's actually serous layer, okay? It's called perimetrium because metra in Greek means uterus. That's why it's called perimetrium, and perimetrium because it's peritoneum, okay? So perimetrium, remember with that. So anterior and posterior portions of the uterus are covered with perimetrium, but the lateral portions are covered with the serous layer, and it's called parametrium, okay? Like lateral, here I can show you, but it's, remember that. Okay, now about this vagina, before we talk about vagina, in the cervical portion, one more thing that I want to tell you. In the cervical portion, we have here these palmate folds, okay, palmate folds, which actually are called arbor vitae also. So they are palmate folds, mucose folds, okay, in the region of the cervix, and remember that also. Now, about vagina, vagina consists of, important about vagina, what you have to remember is that it consists of the folds, horizontal folds, which are called rugae, okay? And this rugae, actually, due to this rugae, you know how HIV goes from male to female. So, in this rugae, actually, are the regions, if you read the book, you will read in more details, exactly from where they suppose that this HIV virus enters to the female organism, okay? So in this portion of vagina, in the rugae. Okay, about the external reproductive organs, you will read. I will talk about breast in a couple words. About vulva, you have just to remember that it consists of external and inner labia, and it consists of clitoris. And if here you're having the book, so if you want to, you can read in the book. I'm not gonna require that from you. And about breast, I will tell you in a couple words. Probably you won't meet that in the test, but still. About breast, you have to know that breast in general is important. Why? For female reproductive system, because it produces milk for the babies. Now here, whatever you see, this is how it actually happens. In this part, first of all, here you have nipple, you have areola, you know probably all that portions, and here inside we care what happens inside here. Well, this muscle majorly happens in the pectoral. The breast is located majorly, and the pectoralis major muscle, and the size of the breast depends on the fatty tissue. Okay, how much fatty tissue is located there, it depends on the size of the breast. The milk production itself occurs in the glands, which are mammalian glands, and these mammalian glands are somewhat changed sweat glands. Okay, so mammalian glands are just the sweat glands which are changed, reconstructed or whatever. So here you have the lobules, which are nearly, you have lobes and also you have lobules. So whatever you see here, basically, these are lobes, and you have nearly 15 to 20 lobes. These lobes itself consist of the lobules. And inside these lobules exactly occurs this production of the milk. After milk is produced, then it goes to the ducts, okay, mammary ducts, and then it goes to the sinuses. When it enters these sinuses, in the sinuses, you know that babies are not eating all the time, so it's stays in the sinuses for a while, in the lactiferous sinuses, and after that it enters to the lactiferous ducts and comes outside. Okay? Okay, and yeah, one more thing, that the suspensory ligament is the ligament which is holding the breast on its place. So with the age, the suspensory ligament loses, it's loosened. So that's why the breast goes, it's loosened, and that's why suspensory ligament is whatever the women should always take care of. And like jogging and everything, like doing these extra exercises, all that helps to lose this suspensory ligament. Okay, that's all.